There's a reason the wolf is feared, while the sheep is forgotten. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something the world still struggles to accept. Being good is not enough. Being gentle, likable, agreeable, these things may win you approval, but they won't win you power. Not in a world where dominance is disguised as diplomacy, where betrayal hides behind a smile, and where survival favors the sharp, not the soft. We are raised to be sheep, to follow, to obey, to blend in. We're told that kindness will be returned, that playing fair will be rewarded, and that being good guarantees a good life. But Machiavelli looked at reality, not fantasy, and what he saw was brutal, but liberating. In a world of sheep, the one who dares to be the wolf makes the rules. This isn't about cruelty, it's about clarity, about stepping out of the illusions of safety and stepping into the arena of influence, about understanding that if you don't seize power, someone else will use it against you. That sometimes, to protect your future, your vision, or your soul, you must become the threat others fear to cross. Being the wolf isn't about destroying others. It's about making sure you are never destroyed. It's about moving through life with purpose, calculation, and courage, so you no longer apologize for your ambition, your intelligence, or your presence. Machiavelli doesn't ask you to abandon your conscience. He demands that you stop sacrificing yourself at its altar. So if you're tired of being underestimated, used, or ignored, it's time to learn the art of the wolf. To walk alone, if you must. To observe quietly. To strike only when it matters. And to become the force no one dares to tame. Amir was a mid-level manager in a prestigious consulting firm, admired for his warmth and dependability. His team loved him. His reports were thorough, his attitude consistent. Yet, when promotions were announced, his name was never called. The higher-ups smiled politely and called him a team player, but never a leader. He couldn't understand why his dedication didn't translate to recognition. Meanwhile, another colleague, Vanessa, a sharp, charismatic woman who understood the politics of perception, moved up rapidly. She wasn't cruel, but she was calculated. She knew when to speak in meetings, who to align with, and when to stay silent. She never bragged, but always ensured her victories were known. Amir, confused, saw this as manipulation. Machiavelli would have called it strategy. Being the wolf doesn't mean betraying others. It means refusing to betray yourself by hiding. Vanessa made sure she wasn't just doing the work, she was seen doing the work. She built relationships with key stakeholders, often by simply listening better than anyone else. She sharpened her instincts, not to compete, but to survive in a system that doesn't reward silent excellence. Amir clung to fairness, but Machiavelli would warn him. Fairness is often a leash the powerful use to tame the capable. In the real world, visibility matters. Influence matters. Perception is currency, and if you're not spending it, someone else is spending it for you. Eventually, Amir watched as his responsibilities were redistributed, not because he was incompetent, but because he posed no threat. A sheep may be loyal, but loyalty doesn't scare rivals. The wolf, however, earns territory by walking with quiet dominance. Amir's realization came too late. He had been grazing in the open, trusting the field, while wolves moved in silence through the forest. He wasn't devoured, just forgotten, and that was worse. To be the wolf is not to lose your soul. It is to protect it from a world that doesn't always see its value, unless it commands space. Machiavelli would whisper, "If they do not fear losing you, they will never fight to keep you." In the modern world, being good is not enough. You must be strategic, calculated, present, and above all, untamed. Lena was brilliant, the kind of genius who could solve problems before they were fully understood. In tech meetings, she'd silently build the infrastructure while others took the credit. She didn't mind. She wasn't chasing fame, just the joy of creation. Her team leaned on her. Her boss praised her privately. Machiavelli would have warned her. He who builds the throne must not sit at its feet. Her humility, had become her invisibility. Wolves understand that genius means little without leverage. Lena had mistaken nobility for strategy. She didn't need to become arrogant. She needed to become known. One afternoon, a junior hire asked her, "Why doesn't the CEO ever talk to you?" The question hit her hard. Lena realized she had spent years making others look good, and they let her, not out of malice, but because she never challenged it. Wolves do not wait for credit. They claim it. She began to change, slightly. She started speaking up in meetings, sharing her ideas directly. She mentored selectively, not indiscriminately. She curated her visibility, not to feed her ego, but to guard her contributions. It wasn't about aggression. It was about presence. Lena's transformation wasn't loud, but unmistakable. People began to refer to her as the cornerstone. The CEO eventually asked her to lead a critical innovation task force. Machiavelli wasn't advocating ruthlessness. He was warning against self-erasure. Being a wolf means knowing when to bare your teeth, not to bite, but to remind others you are not prey. Lena never lost her brilliance. She simply stopped hiding it. Machiavelli would call this a failure of boundaries, not character. Ethan's decency had become his cage. His silence had become his sentence. In a family dynamic where dependency masquerades as love, the wolf knows that too much sacrifice breeds resentment. It started to show. Ethan felt invisible, not respected, just used. Then he read something that shook him. If you do not teach them how to treat you, they will treat you however they please. Machiavelli didn't just talk about ruling nations. He understood households, tribes, human behavior. So Ethan began to withdraw, not with bitterness, with clarity. He stopped giving when it was only expected. He said no more often. He didn't explain himself. Wolves don't ask sheep for permission. At first, the backlash was fierce. "You've changed," they said. "You're cold now." But slowly, something strange happened. People started treating him with more care, with less assumption, with respect. Being a wolf in a family of sheep doesn't mean abandoning love. It means refusing to be devoured in the name of duty. Ethan still helps, but now, on his terms. The wolf is still the protector, but now, the forest listens when he howls. Niccolò was a gifted artist, known for her empathy and emotional sensitivity. Her paintings captured raw truth. But the art world was ruthless. Galleries passed on her, brands ignored her, and she was told to make something more trendy. She resisted. She believed the world would eventually see her authenticity. Years passed. Her friends with less depth, but more networking savvy, got noticed. Their work was flashy, their approach bold. Isla began to question everything. Was she not enough? Or was the game rigged? Machiavelli would tell her, "You are fighting in armor, while others are dancing with daggers." To win in a corrupt world, integrity must be matched with strategy. The wolf doesn't just howl, it chooses where and when. So Isla reimagined her approach. She still painted from truth, but she began to study the system. Who were the tastemakers? What did they respond to? She started presenting her work, not as a plea, but as a proposition. She networked, not to flatter, but to position herself. Slowly, she earned attention. The raw power of her work found the right eyes, but only because she guided it there. She stopped waiting to be discovered. She made herself known. Her breakthrough came at a show she curated herself, bypassing the gallery circuit. Influencers attended. A brand offered her a collaboration on her terms. Isla didn't sell out. She strategized. Machiavelli would say she finally understood. A wolf with vision doesn't change her path, she clears it. Jonas was a young city council candidate, idealistic, passionate, and grounded in his community. His campaign was built on honesty, transparency, and service. He shook hands in every neighborhood, spoke truth in every room, and refused to smear his opponents. His slogan, "People over politics," but he lost, badly. His opponent, a seasoned incumbent, played a different game. Subtle insinuations were planted in public forums. Jonas's inexperience was framed as recklessness. Endorsements he thought were assured vanished at the last moment. He was outmaneuvered, not because he lacked values, but because he lacked cunning. Machiavelli warned, "A man who wants to act entirely virtuously will soon come to ruin among so many who are not virtuous." Jonas wasn't a fool. He was just unprepared. He believed purity would protect him in a system built on perception, power, and positioning. It didn't. After the loss, something shifted in him. Not bitterness, clarity. He realized that being righteous isn't the same as being ready. The wolf doesn't reject the hunt. It studies it. Learns the terrain, understands the nature of its prey and predators alike. In the next cycle, Jonas returned, quieter, sharper, observant. He built alliances before announcing anything. He researched voter psychology, studied media spin, and formed a leaner, tighter team. He didn't abandon his ideals. He armored them in strategy. When he finally ran again, he won, not by pretending to be someone else, but by refusing to be naive. Machiavelli would nod approvingly. The wolf had returned, not to graze, but to lead the pack. Jonas now teaches rising leaders. Compassion without tactics is a cry in the dark. To change the system, you must first survive it. Clara gave everything in her relationships, her time, energy, attention, heart. She believed love meant sacrifice. When a partner was distant, she became more available. When someone hurt her, she forgave quickly, hoping that love would heal it all. She saw herself as loyal, romantic, enduring. But heartbreak followed her, not because she was unlovable, but because she was too willing to be consumed. Machiavelli would have seen her pattern instantly. Never let anyone get comfortable disrespecting you. Clara's goodness had become predictable. Predictability breeds entitlement. Her partners didn't leave her. They simply stopped valuing her. The wolf in love isn't cruel. It is cautious. It demands reciprocity. It gives, but only to those who give back. Clara had mistaken martyrdom for love, forgetting that a wolf doesn't lay its throat bare without trust. Her shift came after her last breakup, when she sat in silence and asked herself, "What would I never tolerate from someone I respected?" The answer was clear and sobering. She had given more to others than she would accept from them. So she changed, not into someone cold, but someone aware. She started asking hard questions early. She didn't chase. She didn't overextend. Her new rule: if they don't match your energy, match their distance. Eventually, someone came along, patient, strong, deeply drawn to her confidence. Clara was still romantic, still kind, but now fiercely self-protective. Machiavelli wasn't about avoiding love. He was about ensuring love never makes you weak. Clara had finally become the wolf, open-hearted, but never exposed. Marcus was promoted to a leadership position at a manufacturing firm after years of reliable work. But leadership required more than expertise. It required presence, vision, and command. Marcus struggled. He was too humble, too democratic, afraid to step on toes. His team respected his knowledge, but not his authority. Machiavelli would have seen the error quickly. It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Not fear through cruelty, but fear through presence, through decisiveness, through standards. Marcus, trying to be liked, had become invisible. After a painful round of underperformance, Marcus was nearly replaced. That's when a mentor pulled him aside and said, "You're not here to be their friend. You're here to be their leader." Productivity rose. Respect deepened. Marcus was no longer the guy who knew the answers. He was the man who shaped the direction. The wolf had emerged, not with fangs, but with focus. Machiavelli understood this balance well. A ruler must be like both the lion and the fox, strong enough to command, clever enough to see danger. Marcus had learned both. He was no longer afraid to be seen as powerful. And his team, they didn't love him less. They admired him more. Elena had been the most diligent voice on the board. Calm, supportive, and measured. She never raised her voice, never challenged anyone outright. She believed that if she consistently contributed with integrity and helped others shine, eventually her value would be recognized. But when the new CEO was announced, a man who joined just a year ago, she sat stunned. The boardroom applauded. Elena's name had never even been whispered as a possibility. Later, over wine and regret, a colleague confided, "You were too silent, too easy to overlook, too agreeable." This is what Machiavelli warned. The sheep who stays quiet, believing silence equals virtue, is the first forgotten. A wolf may choose silence, but only as a tactic. Elena's silence wasn't strategic. It was passive. And in the halls of power, passivity is indistinguishable from irrelevance. The wolf speaks only when necessary, but when it does, it's remembered. It plants ideas, defends ground, makes others uneasy if crossed. It creates a presence, even in absence. Machiavelli's wolf is not cruel. It is simply unforgettable. Elena realized her error too late. She had underestimated how perception governs reality, how visibility often matters more than labor. In a world where influence is currency, she had hoarded character and traded away leverage. The new CEO, charismatic, assertive, unapologetic, wasn't the most qualified. But he was the boldest. He made others believe in his inevitability. That is the Machiavellian art. Not just to be capable, but to seem destined. Elena finally spoke, but by then, the room had stopped listening. The wolf had already claimed the field. Derek was the rising star in the political consulting world. Articulate, well-dressed, emotionally intelligent. But he had a flaw. He believed everyone was like him, fair, open to discussion, loyal to shared outcomes. So when his closest ally, Marcus, asked to borrow Derek's network for a favor, Derek agreed without question. Months later, Derek watched as Marcus used that very network to build a rival firm, poaching clients, dismantling Derek's alliances one by one. Derek's name was still respected, but now his leverage was gone. He had handed over his kingdom in pieces, disguised as generosity. Machiavelli would have called him naive. The prince who believes all men are good will not rule for long. Derek had looked into Marcus and seen his own reflection, not the predator behind the charm. The wolf doesn't assume good or evil. It assumes potential threat. It watches behavior, not words. It tests before trusting. It controls proximity, never mistaking friendliness for loyalty. Derek's fall was not due to incompetence, but illusion. He believed people would protect what he had given, but power given freely is rarely respected. Power guarded, however, even by a smile wrapped in steel, breeds awe. The wolves who survive understand the performance behind every face. They know kindness is a tool, just as much as fear is a barrier. Derek had mastered charm, but he forgot to protect the vault behind the handshake. In the world of sheep, generosity is celebrated. Among wolves, it is tested. Derek had played the wrong game, on the wrong board, and lost. Valeria didn't try to fit in. In a law firm of polished restraint and backroom whispers, she was bold, theatrical, often controversial. She challenged partners openly, made clients nervous with her unfiltered assessments, and carried herself like someone already irreplaceable. Many whispered that she wouldn't last a year, but within 2, she was the one clients demanded by name, not because they liked her, but because they trusted her fire. They knew if she fought for them, she'd scorch the earth. She became the storm no one wanted against them, and the shield everyone wanted on their side. Machiavelli knew this power, to appear dangerous while remaining precise. Valeria wasn't reckless. She was calculated chaos, a wolf that didn't snarl without aim, but made it known she could. In a room of sheep dressed as professionals, she didn't bleat conformity. She radiated force. She made herself impossible to ignore and too costly to lose. Her success wasn't just in her wins, but in how others perceived her inevitability. This is Machiavellian mastery, not merely to be skilled, but to be perceived as a figure who bends outcomes, not to intimidate everyone, but to make sure no one is too comfortable in underestimating you. Her peers who played nice are still waiting in line. Valeria, by contrast, became the exception, not because she followed the rules, but because she made others wonder what rules even applied to her. The wolf doesn't fear the crowd. It moves through it, and if needed, clears it.